I got you.
Good deal. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. We are joined by Christopher Bell, who's attempting to become the first multi-race winner in the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season this weekend at the Food City Dirt Race at Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll go straight into questions. Our first question will come from Mark Garrow. Go with your question, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us this morning, Christopher. I was wondering, after I watched the race last night, seeing you guys just sawing back and forth on the wheel, you know, I know there's a little bit of that during a regular Bristol race, but what's your thoughts on the physicality of 250 laps of that on Sunday? I mean, have you ever been in a race that would stretch you that much, in a dirt race that would stretch you that much physically?
Yeah, Mark, it's definitely going to be a lot more back and forth on the wheel. You know, we saw that last night on the iRacing deal. Dirt racing with these stock cars, you got to really hustle them around the racetrack. And, you know, Eldora was a very similar way. You know, you're far left to far right and 8 times back and forth throughout the corners. So it's just a matter of who's going to be able to repeat that the most and do the best job of, being consistent throughout the course of the race. And I think that's going to be the hardest part. But physically, you know, the G-forces are going to be down significantly from what they are normally at Bristol. So, you know, I think the physical demand on us will probably be similar to a normal race, I guess. The G-forces are the ones that typically, you know, make it hard for us.
Will you use a little bit more of a different set of muscle groups having to do so much of that? I mean, normally it's just, you know, just looked to me like last night, it could just be a whole new ball game that we hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, I think it's the same muscle group, but definitely a lot more active on the steering wheel. And you know, all of our crew chiefs know that we're going to be back and forth on the wheel a lot more. So the steerings will probably be a little bit softer than what they would be at normal Bristol. So, you know, I think the crew chiefs will help us out making the steering softer.
Thank you. Good luck.
Our next question will come from Alex Andreev. Go ahead with your question, Alex.
Hey, Christopher. I'm curious how real yesterday felt compared to what you actually expect, you know, Bristol to feel like, and how confident you are going into this weekend, just having a dirt background.
Yeah, Alex, I feel really good about it. I think I should have an advantage over the majority of the other competitors just because of my background and my experience on dirt tracks. But as far as last night being realistic, man, I just don't see it. You know, we saw the track was really heavy on the iRacing simulator, and if we get those conditions in real life, we're not going to be able to see because the windshields will be mudded up, the radiators are going to be mudded up, and we're not going to be able to get airflow to the engines. So, you know, we can't have those conditions. And then if it gets super dry, it's going to be really dusty. So, I don't think the track conditions were realistic, what we had last night, but I think some of the tendencies might be similar.
And then there's been a lot of talk about Noah Gragson and Xfinity this year. I know that you raced with him for a year at KBM, and he kind of took over for you with Rudy. But I'm curious what your impressions of him are as a competitor and as a former teammate, I guess.
Yeah, he's definitely a personality. We see that all the time on social media. He puts himself out there and is, you know, not afraid to use his mouth. So, that's just Noah.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Chris Estrada. Go ahead with your question, Chris.
Christopher, thanks for joining us today. You're entering this race with a win and a playoff berth in your pocket. If you didn't have a win going into this race, do you feel like you would have put more pressure on yourself going in, considering how many people have dubbed you as a favorite?
Yeah, Chris, it's definitely a race that I had circled on the calendar whenever we went into the 2021 season, and it still is. You know, I think I've got a great opportunity to, win another race this weekend at Bristol, and so we're going to do everything we can to win another race. But man, it's nice not having to, rely on this and be like, man, this is our only way to the playoffs. So I think we have the opportunity for a great showing here, and I hope that we can capitalize on that and get some playoff points, get some stage points, have a good solid points day, and maybe come away with a victory.
And just another question, not long after your win at Daytona, you talked about how it was going to be fun racing with Chris Windom, one of your teammates on the midget side in this dirt race. I spoke with him recently, and he said he hadn't started picking your brain about how to handle these cup cars, but that he would eventually. So has he reached out to you yet? And if so, what kind of advice have you given him going into what will be his Cup debut?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him yet, but I mean, he's going to be fine. You know, I think he's run ARCA cars before. I don't know that he's run any NASCAR stuff, but ARCA cars are probably going to be really similar, at least on the miles, to what we're going to do this weekend. So I think he's got as much experience as any of us. And, you know, so I think he'll be a competitor for sure.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Greg Engel. I have the question, Greg.
Hey, Christopher, thanks for taking time out. Two questions for you. One, you talked about not seeing anything, we shouldn't take anything away from what we saw in iRacing last night, and I agree with you on that. However, it is a decent simulation. Do you think that the packs we see and the kind of where everybody was running last night is going to carry over to this weekend, or is it just that far off?
Yeah, Greg, I don't think the track conditions were going to be what we see at all. And after driving the cars, I don't think that the cars are going to drive that way either. As far as packs and stuff like that, I mean, yeah, it will probably you get a couple guys out front, similar to last night, where a couple guys can drive away who really can get going well. And then you're going to have some guys back there struggling that are all kind of racing together. But as far as track conditions, racing grooves, and car driving stuff, I don't think that those three things will relate.
And sadly, there's rain in the forecast this weekend. I raced on dirt before you were born, so I don't really remember because I'm old. But how much, I know a little bit of rain's not going to hurt anything. When should we start being worried about losing the track and stuff when it rains? Is it a steady downpour? Is it a heavy downpour? Is there, a little bit of rain ain't going to hurt anything? Or, just your kind of experience. You obviously have a lot more dirt experience and probably have been in some kind of rainouts. Yeah.
So basically any rain is going to, what we classify as lose the track, so if the track gets wet at all, we're going to lose the track, but we should be able to regain it pretty quick with a little bit of track prep time. But then if we get a lot of downpours and heavy rainfall, then it's going to be harder for them to prepare the racetrack. And, the more rain that we get, that longer the time period needed to regain the racetrack. And on top of that, the more water that they get in the surface, and this is something I'm sure that they are really careful about, is we can't really do rough racetracks. And the more water content the dirt has, the softer the dirt's going to be, the more rough the racetrack is going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the weather this weekend. I'm all for having a little bit of water in the dirt to make it a more true dirt track than what maybe we're anticipating. But on the flip side, if the dirt has too much water content in it, and either A, the track starts getting rough, or B, it starts, our windshields get mudded up. The front of the cars are going to get mudded up, and the engines are going to get hot. So they're walking a very fine line on how much water content can be in the dirt.
Thanks, pal. Have fun this weekend. Hi, Sam.
Our next question will come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead with the question, Lee.
Thank you, man. And thank you for joining us, Christopher. I'm curious, Adam Stevens has a wealth of information, but this is really your milieu. So are you more apt to kind of turn the tables and tell Adam what you need and what you're looking for from this standpoint, and kind of educate him more, than the other way around?
Yeah, Lee, I'm definitely letting Adam run the show. He's an excellent crew chief, and he knows what's going on. So as far as practice plans, how many laps we're going to do, stuff like that, I'm going to let him decide that. But definitely my feedback is going to be critical, because nobody knows what to expect. Nobody knows what we're going to be fighting. So, Adam can generally lead us down the path of, at Bristol concrete, you're practicing, and then you need to kind of hedge towards the tighter side to race well. Well, all that is irrelevant. So, his notes are, he doesn't have any notes for Bristol dirt. So it's going to be a lot of my feedback of the direction of the race car for what he needs to do to it.
You're not used to having a bunch of people's voices in your head when you're running on dirt. Is that going to be something else that you're going to have to get used to? Because now you have a spotter and a crew chief, and usually you're a one-man show when you're out racing the midget.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's no different than the Bristol truck race. So that'll be similar to that, and it's going to be a NASCAR race, that's for sure. It's not going to be a midget race or a sprint car race. So it still is a NASCAR race, regardless of the surface underneath of us. So it's going to be an exciting one though, and I hope we're able to put on a great show.
Appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Kelly Crandall. Go ahead with the question, Kelly.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Christopher. Going back to what you said about the dust, just what are the concerns going into Sunday about track prep and track conditions? It's going to be kind of abnormal for a dirt race to be run in the heat of the day. So just what are your concerns about how dusty it might get, and if they're going to have to maybe treat the track maybe during a stage break or something?
Yeah, hi Kelly. And I was really, really worried about the dust prior to watching the Dirt Nationals last weekend. They started mid-afternoon, just like the Cup race will, and it seemed like they had a great job, or they did a great job managing the dust, and so I was really happy about that. And it's just really, really difficult though, because of the fine line they're walking of having too much water in it and throwing mud on the windshields, and then not having enough water in it and getting super dusty. But you know, the dust is a product of the surface itself. So we go to some racetracks and dust is not an issue. And like Knoxville, Iowa, for example, you go there and dust is very rarely a factor. It gets slick and it polishes off, and you quit throwing mud and there's no dust. And that's what we need. That's what we want. Or Eldora gets similar. It maybe has a little bit more dust than Knoxville, but you look at a place like the Charlotte Dirt Track, they were having to throw competition yellows last year during the World Finals because it got so dusty. So, and then the Las Vegas K&N race was similar. You know, I remember we had to have a break for track prep because it was so dusty there too. So after watching the Dirt Nationals though, I don't think dust is going to be a huge issue for us at Bristol.
And then what about just the length of the race? It's going to be pretty long at 250 laps. How do you expect the track to change throughout the course of the day?
Yeah, so regardless of how wet it is at the start, it's going to be dry at the end. And then it's just a matter of how dry, if the track transitions to taking rubber and actually gaining grip back, that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, it's going to undergo a lot of changes over 250 laps for sure.
Our next question will come from Marty Sikala. Go ahead with the question, Marty.
Hey, Christopher Greens from Bristol. Thanks for taking the time, man. Just curious, entering the weekend, who you think your biggest threat or biggest opponent is entering the dirt race?
Yeah, thanks, Marty. I mean, you definitely got to look at the 5 car. He's going to be probably one of the top guys. Aside from that, Tyler Reddick ran extremely well in the trucks at Eldora. I think you need to look at that race in particular to pick your favorites. Stuart Friesen is going to be really good. I expect Chris Windham to be running really well. You know, Shane Golobic, I know he's got K&N experience, so he has some stock car experience. He might be a factor. Austin Dillon, you know, there's a handful of guys that could easily win the race. So yeah, I think you look at your dirt racers, your people that have run really well at the Bristol truck event. Those guys are going to be the favorites.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. Good luck this week.
Our next question is going to come from Jenna Fryer. Go ahead with the question, Jenna.
Hey, Christopher, when the race is over Sunday, what will have had to have happened for people to say, wow, that was a great dirt race?
Yeah, Jenna, I'm not entirely sure about that. I hope it turns out well. If you look at the history of events in the Cup Series, you know, it seems like that finish is a really, really big key ingredient for a great race. You know, you look at like the Ryan Blaney win at the Roval the first time we went there. I don't think anybody would classify that as a great race, but it had a great finish, so it got great reviews. You know, I just hope that we're able to get green flag laps in, have long green flag runs. A great finish is necessary for it to be considered a great race. And yeah, hopefully we know it's going to be a full concert and there's going to be a lot of hanging. It's not a demo derby.
What would a bad race look like?
A demo derby with a lot of yellow flags. And I mean, it can be saved by a great finish, but if there's a lot of yellow flags with very few green flag laps, that's not going to be ideal.
Thanks, Christopher.
Our final question is going to come from Michael Shelton. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Christopher. Well, Sunday is obviously going to be a landmark day for NASCAR, but the news broke yesterday about an iRacing event that's going to be held on the streets of Chicago, and Bob Pockris, of course, later reported that it could possibly lead to a real live race on the streets of Chicago. I was just wondering, how would you feel about the possibility of a NASCAR street race, and would you want it in Chicago, or is there another city that ideally you would like to race at if you're in favor of a street race?
Michael, I would say that the street race of Chicago has potential to be a really good event for us. It all depends on the layout, and if the streets are wide enough to have good passing zones. I think it's yeah.
Christopher, I think we're having connection problems with you, sir. And unfortunately, I think we lost Christopher there. Christopher, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I think
You
there's
cut out there for a second.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard?
You thought that you thought that the street racing in Chicago was a good idea, but if the layout was good,
that's the bottom line. If it's wide enough and has enough room for passing, then I think it's going to be a success.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, Christopher, thank you again for taking the time to join us today. Now, good luck this week and have fun on the dirt.
Thank you.